So just for like the start of this video, we're going to have like raw gameplay on. I just want to explain what this potential new series is going to be about, and after that will be the cool edit style content over some gameplay that I usually put out. So like, yeah, don't click off this video because it's low effort at the start. I'm just like not too sure what to actually put on the screen whilst I ramble about what this series is. Anyway, this series is going to be about winning what some people would call hard counter matchups. Personally, I do not believe in hard counter matchups between two meta decks, and so this series has come to light. Now, I don't want to just throw random deck lists at you and tell you how to win with each disadvantaged one, so please do leave me two deck lists below where one has a significant matchup advantage. The rule is that they both must be current meta decks within grand challenges or at top ladder. I don't want to see like all tank decks versus all building decks down below, like that's just, it's not useful to anyone. I mean, now that I've said that, there's going to be an exact comment which is like, oh, look at all of these tanks versus all these buildings. You're really not funny. Anyway, this first episode is just a trial to see how well it goes, so if you do enjoy this concept, then be sure to like and subscribe so I know to create more of this type of content. So yeah, all we're really going to be doing is applying some pro strategies to the deck list provided. These include using alternate win conditions, counting card rotation, counting elixir, utilizing cards in a unique manner, and recognizing weaknesses in your opponent's decks. Today we shall be covering Logbait versus Giant Triple Spell, a matchup that is difficult because the majority of your cards are weak to spells and your opponent is running free spells, so let's get into actually winning it. Firstly, let's explain how these modern bait decks function. Currently in the meta they run 4 bait cards, and this is because of the popularization of triple spell decks. Old bait decks would simply run 3 bait cards, those being an investment, a high DPS card, and a win condition. This helps bait decks beat triple spell, because obviously free spells aren't enough to kill off 4 bait cards. They also tend to run some other form of offensive card like a Prince or a Royal Ghost. Older bait decks would choose a purely defensive card in here like a Tesla or Tornado for when punish plays were less prevalent. This change happens so you could potentially identify a weakness in your opponent's deck and use this high risk high reward card to reduce damage in a bad matchup. Another way modern decks do this is through running an efficient big spell, such as Rocky or Poison. These allow for spell cycling to occur in bad matchups, giving another alternate win condition for you to use. In order to figure out how to beat this matchup, we should probably understand the roles of each card in your deck. We'll start with the obvious, your bait cards. Goblin Gang, Dark Goblin Princess, and Goblin Barrel are all cards that your opponent will probably want to use their small spells on. To a lighter extent, Rascals and Prince can also be logged, but usually in a bait matchup your opponent won't be doing this because they know you're obviously trying to bait them. These cards are extremely important and will enable you to gain damage with your Goblin Barrel, providing you successfully bait out spells. Gang's function will be mainly defensive as your cheap DPS unit. This here will allow you to punish hard with pretty much all of your other cards in your deck. If your opponent invests the Giant, you can easily go into the other lane to try to get damage. With all of your opponent's elixir then spent, you can rely on the good old Goblin Gang to get you out of trouble with that Giant in the other lane. The most important deck role will be your actual win condition. Goblin Barrel is your primary win condition as it's a near instant spawn of a ton of DPS onto your opponent's tower. However, this can easily be spelled away, and so it isn't the most reliable when you face a decent opponent. So Prince and Rocket will be your secondary win conditions when your barrel is being extremely countered. Even using cards like Dark Goblin or Princess at the river can provide you alternative damage from the Goblin Barrel, but we'll cover that more in a bit. Rascals and Prince can be classed as support to your win condition, seeing as the Goblin Barrel does extremely well when it's tanked for. They essentially just excel your advantage when you have an opportunity to use your Goblin Barrel. If your opponent has just used a log on something, then tanking for your Goblin Barrel means that a zap will not be an effective counter. With the tower distracted on a card like the Prince, the Goblin Barrel is set to continue stabbing at the tower even after being zapped. However, if you just sent in this barrel alone, they could easily use Zap on it and take minimal damage from this exchange. Okay, now that we know the roles of these cards, how on earth do we beat Triple Spell? Well, there are a few techniques that you can employ to win this horrible matchup. We've talked about this a bit already, but first up is the usage of alternative win conditions. A lucky Prince charge followed up by a continuous rocket spam can see you win games 1-0 without even throwing a single Goblin Barrel. Somewhat related to that point would be to use your other cards in different manners than usual. What this means is changing what you're trying to achieve from one of your cards. A good example is Princess. Instead of investing her in the back, resulting in her probably getting poisoned off the board for a good trade, you could instead throw her at the river for chip damage. Even if she gets one pop shot off and forces your opponent to spend a troop, you're slowly wearing that tower down. The best case scenario here is that your opponent panics, logs the Princess, and sets you up perfectly for a Goblin Barrel attack. This can throw off the natural counters in your opponent's deck, and end up throwing off your opponent into panicking and then losing the game. Next up would be counting rotation, which is obviously useful for a bait deck. I won't go into it too much because the general premise doesn't really change, but if your opponent doesn't have the log in hand, boom, go barrel. That's ultra basic though, right? Well, if your opponent's hand is Giant, Zap, Poison, and Minor, then you will know that they currently lack Prince counters. A Prince paired with literally any other support could prove devastating for your opponent, and so you could achieve damage by throwing that Prince instantly at the river. This links into our next technique, which is being able to recognize weaknesses in your opponent's deck. when you look at this giant miner deck, what really stands out as a weakness? Well, solid ground defense. One perfect problem that this deck could face is conveniently the Prince. The best defense it has to it is to distract with skeletons, and then DPS on top with a Mega Minion. However, if both of these cards are out of hand, they really don't have too many efficient counters, and this can lead to you getting damage once again. Finally, you could always count their elixir. In most pro games, you'll have to do this to win literally any matchup, but for my average viewer, this could help you out in your normal ladder games. I made an entire guide to count elixir, so if you want to check that out and know how to do it, then I'll leave that in the top right hand corner for you now. If you know that your opponent only has 4 elixir, and you have up to 8 elixir, a push something like Prince and Goblin Barrel will be near impossible for them to deal with. They really only have 2 options. They either log the barrel and only have 2 elixir for that Prince, or they can deal with the Prince using skeletons and Mega Minion, but be forced to leave your Goblin Barrel. Generating this lead and then capitalizing on it is another good way to push through damage. So just as a test for this format, I'm going to move over to a video of me live playing this matchup. The reason I had this whole 6-minute portion beforehand is because I don't know how well I'm going to do explaining what's playing, but yeah, enjoy watching me attempt to not be trash. So welcome to this extra bit that we've never really done before, but I think it's sort of important to do some live gameplay as well as the edited stuff, because sometimes in the edited stuff I leave things out and I forget stuff, so when we do it live I can sort of run through it all. Today we're going to be facing Badger8787, an average player at the very best. I'd say he's around my skill level, so it sort of works out. It's not like, I'm playing somebody who's inherently better than me, or inherently worse than me for that fact. He's going to be giant triple spell, as we discussed, and I'm going to be the bait deck that we've had in this entire video. He doesn't know my deck list, but he does know that he's a hard counter to me, so let's just do this. So I am not a pro player by any means. I'm going to try and win it. Let's hope. And I'm going to just try and talk through what potential plays I'm doing. So, to start off, I'm just going to throw the Golden Barrel. If he doesn't have log in hand, it's easy chip damage to start off with. Unfortunately, that's exactly what he does have in hand, so he's going to get the easiest start of his life with a very easy trade there. Gonna go with a Mega Minion. We'll go Princess other lane. Hopefully we'll try and bait out a poison or something, so if he does build a push, he doesn't have the poison for his push, exactly as I said. It doesn't look like he's going to push, so instead we'll just split it again. I know that side's going into the poison, but there's not really anywhere I could have avoided that. So I'll defend that. Alright, what's next? Skellies. Alright, I know that he doesn't have anything for Prince, so let's get this on the board. He might go with a defensive giant. Yeah. Okay. This is tough. Hopefully that Prince can get to the tower. Go on, Prince. Go on. Oh, okay, he had to zap. That's fine, because I know all of his spells are gone, except I think he's back to log, but I don't think he wants to log this, so I'm cool with it. He might be back to poison now, so I'm going to make sure everything I place is separated. Okay, there's the poison. Sort of out of DPS right now, but we should be okay. He decided to log that, which was the wrong call. Badger, you're making mistakes. He knows. Alright, the Gob Barrel's going in now with the Rascal's all potential as a Gob tanking. He had to use the Zap there, which means he has nothing for that barrel. Had to play the Mega Minion. That's going to put us ahead, especially with this Princess down here. And that Mega Minion, if he gets hit again, will not get any damage onto our tower, assuming he doesn't tank for it. Oh, okay, we're up, we're doing it. So that's what I was talking about, getting chip damage with the Princess is so valuable, because if I need to, I can just sit back and I can spell cycle now. We're gonna go like this. I believe he's gonna go with a giant in the back. I'm hoping... Oh, he went other lane. Okay, we're gonna throw the Dark up at the river just to get some chip damage. Maybe he'll panic and play Dark Prince onto it. No, he's gonna let it be. Okay, that's probably the right call from him. I don't think he wanted to do that, but that's probably the right call. We're gonna rely on the Prince on defense here. Just because it's not weak to spells. That Dark Prince is going to come over here. Oh, those Skellies actually hurt him, I think. Okay, this is good. The DPS from the Prince is helping us out a bunch. I'm going to try... Oh, hopefully I didn't hit. Alright, we're good. He's going to mine it down there. The Rascals will do. Okay, we're in it. Let's send another Dark Gob. Hopefully he won't react in time. Go on. Ah, he got it. Well played. That's a bad trade for us. Alright, I'm going to not Gob Barrel this. Oh, yes I am. Okay, he made a mistake. Badge, what are you doing? He does have zap for it, but again, this is what I talk about in the video, right? If we can get the tank, it's easy game. He can't zap. We might actually be able to win this. Okay. Alright, he's coming at us with everything he's got. I know he's going to poison this, but it's all I can really do. Thankfully, we can get that miner down. The giant is on our tower. I'm going to log it just because there's only 10 seconds left, so no more hits. And I believe that's going to be GG. Alright, there we go. Again, he didn't know my deck list. He just knew that he had a good matchup, and I obviously did know his deck list because I've made the video. But yeah, essentially, you can win any game. I maybe didn't talk about all of the techniques because my mind is running at like infinite miles an hour, but you can see the stuff we just discussed in the video, it comes through when you actually play the game. I sort of discussed a little bit about, you know, using cards as alternate win conditions and all of that stuff. You know, I could have rocket cycled there if I didn't actually manage to get that tower, and just, I was throwing dark gobs at the river and stuff like that. It all sort of adds up, and you can win any matchup as long as you know the techniques. Again, I'm not a pro player. Badger, not a pro player. Thank you, Badge, for doing this with me, although you've sort of just lost on a video, but, you know, I appreciate it. Again, it's not any proof that, you know, you can go beat any pro, because there's just two average players playing, and, you know, I've made a whole video, so maybe I did have the advantage, but I don't know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little end segment. I don't usually do these, but it was fun, I guess. Overall, just thank you for watching this video, and peace. God, that was somewhat stressful having to actually win. Jesus.